Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 online action. Today we're back with the Lizardmen, going to be taking on the Warriors of Chaos. I'm battling Romulan Dog, who many of you may know is a very, very good player, so let's get to the army compositions. I've got Crocky G here, hidden with his Temple Guard in the forest. For the main line, we've got a front line of Skink Cohort with Javelins, a few Saurus Warriors with Shields, 3 in fact. Gary, the good old Revocation Crystal. We've got a single Skink Skirmisher with a Chameleon Skink up front. Over here, a Skink Priest, Lord of Heavens, and 2 Horned Ones. For the Warriors of Chaos, we've got a whole bunch of Chaff Marauders up front, 5 of them. 3 Chaos Warriors with great weapons, Kolek the Sun Eater, and a Dragon Ogre Shaggoth. And we've also got 1 unit of halberds protecting this Chaos Sorcerer, Lore of Metal. If we take a look at his spell loadout, looks like he's got Plague of Rust and Final Transmutation. Hidden in the woods, we've got some Marauder Horsemen with Chaos Poison Warhounds. So without further ado, let's get the battle underway. You can see I'm going to be moving up my Skinks, trying to get some fire on these Marauders here. See if we can't thin them out a little bit, make them easier to rout off. My opponent is moving up here. I did spot these Horsemen and the Hounds. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to keep my Horned Ones hidden. I guess I could have pulled them back, but anyway, we're going to go ahead and countercharge in just a minute here, but of course the Marauder Horseman, especially with the reaction time of Romulan Dog here, is going to be able to pull away in time there, and he does discover my Temple Guard here as well, so at this point I honestly should probably just be pulling my Temple Guard and Krokar up to the center, because that's where Kolek and this other Dragon Ogre Shaggoth are at, but still, the only dino I've got is the Revocation Crystal, so the anti-large focus of Kolek and the Shaggoth aren't necessarily going to be great here. But yeah, you can see we're getting some decent fire on those Chaos Marauders so far. Nothing too crazy, but any damage we can do before the battle gets underway here. You can see we have started to pick off a few unit models there, so Skink's going to start to pull back, and no engagements really going down so far. But the Javelins are opening up shots now here. Looks like the Poison Warhound's going to try and push through, but honestly, the Warhound's up against the Skink Cohort. The Skink Cohort will do just fine in defending from that. Obviously, I don't want my Skink Skirmishers in more to get inundated there, but the Saurus charging through, going to make contact with the Marauders in the front line. Obviously, Saurus will cut through Marauders in a big hurry, which we definitely need them to. With the support from the Lore of Heavens, though, we should be able to beat down the Chaos Warriors with great weapons if we put the magic in the right spot. You can see Krokar and his Temple Guard being used to take out Chaos Marauders, which they certainly will, but not the most efficient use of them. Here come the Horned Ones, going to be charging up the hill, just mowing down this unit of Chaos Warriors with great weapons. Big old Curse of Midnight Wind goes down here as well, so we're going to be sundering the armor and debuffing the melee attack. A Wind Blast. I'm just trying to clear out everything here as quickly as possible. Romulan Dog does bring in the halberds here, and that Lord of the Storm as well to try and pin in these Horned Ones. The Shaggoth comes over. We do charge over to the Shaggoths. Harmonic Convergence goes down on one of the units of Horned Ones, but they're just taking so much damage at this point because of all this supporting Chaos Infantry down here. You can see a lot of the Horned Ones still bogged down in here, so they just weren't able to pull away effectively there. And we do have some Saurus support on station, but yeah, the Horned Ones took way too much damage there. We were able to do a decent amount of damage to Kolek and the other Dragon Ogre Shaggoth, but thankfully though, the Chaos Warriors, the great weapons, definitely got wrecked there, and the Saurus have been able to push through and start engaging on the Chaos Warriors. Over here, these Saurus Warriors are losing out, unfortunately, because the magic support just not where it needs to be, with everything having been dropped in this center pocket here. But the Horned Ones have regrouped from their terror, going to be trying to pull back. If I can get some charges of the Revocation Crystal to heal them up, we can still get some good value out of them. One of them pretty close to an XP Chevron, the other one only about half, so that's not great. The Marauder Horseman coming through, doing a great job running down the Chameleon Skinks. We're going to respond with the Horned Ones here to try and take them out. But right now, Kolek and his buddy are distracted going after the Rev Crystal. You can see the Skink Priest relatively safe here, and Crocky G and his Temple Guard squad finally waddling up to the top of the hill, which is where they should have been this entire time. But it looks like final transmutation going off on good old Gary there. So we're going to park him right in the middle so that doesn't affect any of the other nearby units. And unfortunately, Kolek and the Shaggoth do come after the the horned ones here. So we're going to just abandon the Chameleon Skinks. It's a bit unfortunate. Well, I say abandon. Crocky G's in here. And Kolek's going to try and pull away, go after Gary, but with the Temple Guard and Krokar on station, sorry, that's not Kolek, that's just the Shaggoth, but yeah, they're not going to want to stay and fight. The Horned Ones, again, trying to use them as a mobile force here, but they're just so low in number at this point that it's going to be hard to even clear out like these chaff units like the Marauder Horsemen and the Hounds that are bogging them down. So just haven't really been able to get the work done that we needed to, although I guess these guys are just about up to an XP jet run, so they've been able to get some okay work done. But this Shaggoth getting pretty low, Temple Guards and Krokar pushing through. It's just kind of a grind out, meanwhile, in this backline here, with Saurus and Skinks just slugging it out with Chaos Warriors, and without the interruption of the Shaggoth, this might have gone in the Lizardmen's favor. It's hard to say. It was quite the grind here. But with the Shaggoth intervening, that's going to terrify away the Skinks and the Saurus, and it is going to rout off a lot of those forces. So balance power still relatively even at this point. Horned Ones pushing through on this side, getting that Revification Crystal charge. I'm just trying to pull them away from the Shaggoths and use them in engagements where they can get some good work done. Looks like they did pop back a unit model there, and oh man, I've never actually seen that animation. It just kind of like hoofs them in with this like blue wisp of smoke. That's interesting. Never actually seen that animation go off. Always wondered what that would look like to actually resurrect the unit models there. But anyway, the Horned One's pulling away here, not wanting to engage that Shaggoth there. Krokar and his Temple Guard squad are still pretty solid. We're just trying to push off some of these Marauders, but Romulan Dongs has done a great job of just throwing chaff units at these Temple Guard. You can see they haven't taken much damage, but they've been bogged down fighting Marauders almost this entire time, where I've really needed them to help defend Gary from the Shaggoth menace here. You can see the balance power has turned against me. Gary's starting to take some severe damage, and without his healing, it's going to be tough to sustain. Harmonic Convergence going down on these Temple Guards. They try and finish off these Chaos Warriors. You can see the Horned Ones also coming in to make their final stand here, finishing off these the Chaos Warriors here, or at least trying to. If we can finish off the infantry and isolate Kolek without any infantry support whatsoever, we might be able to pull it out here, but you can see there's still this group of Chaos Warriors with Griffins and the Halberds as well, both relatively healthy, and Gary's just getting pummeled by the two Shaggoths, too slow to get away, unfortunately. So, yeah. My lack of positioning definitely costing me here. Or at least lack of positioning well, I should say. But we do have some Skinks coming back from route over there. These Skinks, unfortunately, I could have very much used them in that fight, but they're going on a wild goose chase, trying to finish off some Marauders here, and unfortunately, Gary does shatter. So with Gary shattered, I'm going to lose the rest of my healing. I still had maybe 3 or so charges left on the Revification Crystals, so that's pretty unfortunate, but thankfully we do still have the Skink Priest online. We're going to throw another Harmonic Convergence on these Temple Guard, try and help them finish off these warriors with great weapons, but there's just too much Chaos Infantry to deal with at this point, and the fact that we're going to get surrounded here, and then Kolek comes in, drops the Lord of the Storm. I'm trying to pull these guys back just because I don't want to get completely surrounded here. The Skinks are going to try and come in for support as well, but they get charged by the Marauder Horsemen. Crocky G is still fighting pretty admirably. The Sorcerer I see is isolated here. I'm like, okay, Crocky G's got a target now. Let's see if we can take down the Sorcerer. And only a few swipes from Krokar will do a ton of damage to him. But come on, Krokar, let's go. It's just a Chaos Sorcerer. Nope, Krokar's a little confused about the situation, it seems. But there we go, finally getting some attack animations in. And yeah, only 1 or 2 attack animations will be enough to finish off that Sorcerer. But it does look like it's going to be dropping another final transmutation there, finishing off the Temple Guard and Krokar there. So yeah, Krokar trying to get in to do some attacks on the Shaggoth, but unfortunately the Temple Guard just getting dragged down from multiple angles at this point, just rear charged and cut to oblivion. So yeah, they get terrified, and that's pretty much game at that point. So we'll fast forward through the end there as Krokar just gets pummeled by all these Chaos forces here. And yeah, that's game. So very good game to Romulan Dog. Hope you guys enjoyed watching that one. A few key mistakes ended up costing me, just badly positioning my Temple Guard out on the flank there, where they really, I mean, once I had seen Romulan Dog's army, I knew that he had that very heavy presence in the center with the Shaggoth and Kolek. What I should have done is immediately moved Krokar and the Temple Guard up the hill, and then just stood Gary on top of them, basically. I also somewhat misused the Horned Ones. I could have definitely played better with them. I still don't think that they're necessarily the best unit in the world. We'll talk about why in just a minute. But they did okay here. One of them was able to get an XP Chevron at the end of the day, 76 kills. Unfortunately, my Chameleon Skinks really, they have a hard time dealing with the Marauder Horsemen if the Marauder Horsemen charge in. I guess the Chameleon Skinks themselves may not, but the Skink Skirmishers did. We weren't able to use the ranged fire to defeat the Marauder Horsemen, so they were able to harass the backline, ended up distracting the Horned Ones so that they didn't ever get really effective charges on the Shaggoths. You can see both Kolek and the Shaggoth did take quite a bit of damage, and we were able to deal with most of his infantry relatively well. Only this one Chaos Warrior with Great Weapon and the one Halberd as well did quite well in the late game in cleaning up some of the Saurus, but you can see all the Saurus did quite well also. 90 kills, 64, 73, 94 on the Temple Guard, 104 on those Skink cohort, so they definitely did something there. But yeah, at the end of the day, just a few key mistakes by me ended up costing me. I do think that the Horned Ones do have somewhat of a place in this matchup, but I just would like to see a minor buff for them just because of how expensive they are and their lower model count. Their biggest issue is their low melee defense. So if we go ahead and take a look here at the Lizardmen, I have been using them quite a bit lately in other battles I haven't shown, but this has just kind of been my experience with them of using them over the past while. They're definitely a useful unit. You have to be careful how you use them because they are surprisingly squishy. You would think with their 100 armor that they'd be pretty tanky, but look, only 28 melee defense is not great. I mean, you look at other elite tier cavalry in that price range, so let's go ahead and compare to, say, like Demigryph Knights, for example. They're within a similar price range. Demigryph Knights with halberds are 100 more expensive. The shielded variant are only 50 more expensive, but you can see, I guess they're not that much higher anyway. Interesting. Yeah, 28 for them. Let's go ahead and compare. I'm just out of curiosity then. Bretonnia. I mean, even if you were to put the Horned Ones up to 30, I mean, it's not that much of a difference, but it's enough of a difference that it can help. I mean, obviously, with how I played with them, they probably wouldn't have survived anyway, but like Grail Knights, for example, I guess they only have 30 as well. For some reason, I thought they had more melee defense. Interesting. I guess the reason it's confusing for me is because Grail Knights are a shock cavalry, right? Demigryph Knights are sort of like a shock cavalry. I'm sure Blood Knights are probably within the same area. Blood Knights are at 32, and Chaos Knights with lances are, let's see, they're at 34. Okay, so they actually have probably the best melee defense. But anyway, beyond that point, I mean, those are all shock cavalry, right? Like they have in the 60 to 70 charge bonus range, some of them even higher. The Horned Ones, though, are not a shock cavalry. They're a melee cavalry, right? I mean, you just look at the tooltip. I mean, it says Cold One Cavalry, not Shock Cavalry, right? They don't have a lance in their tooltip. They have a substantially lower charge bonus as well than a lot of the other elite tier Shock Cav we've looked at here. So it's just kind of weird to have a melee Cav with lower melee defense like that. Like, you would expect that level of melee defense on a Shock Cavalry, I guess, but not necessarily on a melee Cav. So I think if you were to buff their melee defense slightly, that would help. The Enraged thing does kind of suck on a unit this expensive, but other than that, I mean, they're pretty good monstrous cav. They do have somewhat of the same issue of Demigryph Knights, so it's not quite as bad because they have more models, but just the low model count as compared to a regular unit of cavalry is a little bit of a punishment there. But, I mean, they have great weapon strength overall, good armor-piercing damage. Their charge bonus is decent. It's not, again, it's not as high as the highest-tier shock cavalry, but their sustained melee stats in terms of their melee defense is pretty poor. I think if you were to buff this even just slightly up to, like, 32, around that range, 30 to 32, I think, even, would make enough of a difference to make these guys just that much more, because they're really not that far off from being a really cost-effective unit. An excellent kind of variety pick for the Lizardmen. And if you were just to buff their melee defense just slightly, I think they would be right where they need to be. But, of course, very well played Romulan Dog in that game. I don't want to take anything away from his play. He definitely did a great job there of keeping his Shaggoths away from, you know, the priority away from the threats, focusing on priority targets, and yeah, I don't want to take anything away from his play there, but definitely I think that just based again on my past experiences with recent battles and you know, that battle that I just showed, I do think that Horned Ones could use a little bit of a melee defense buff. But anyway, let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. Hope you guys enjoyed watching. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button so every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time.